So good morning. My name's David Young. I'm the superintendent of schools here in South Burlington and the South Burlington School District. The purpose of this meeting is to provide you with an update on where we are related to master planning and visioning, specifically building a new high school and middle school. Joining me this morning, behind me, Chair of the South Burlington School Board, Elizabeth Fitzgerald, and she'll be sharing with you a little bit on why we need a new high school and middle school. Also joining me is Bridget Burkhart, who will be sharing with you some specifics on the design that you see before you. And then finally, Patrick Burke, the principal of our high school, will be sharing with you specifically what this means to students. We'll leave a little bit of time at the conclusion of the presentation. We will hang around for the opportunity for folks to ask some questions, but we will conclude the presentation and then we'll allow for folks to ask some questions. So, following me, Elizabeth Fitzgerald. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and good morning, everybody. I'm Elizabeth Fitzgerald, Chair of the South Burlington School Board. I'm going into my 15th year of service in South Burlington, and I was asked to talk a little bit about the why of why we're taking this to the South Burlington community. This is the culmination of several years of work with an assessment that started with infrastructure needs of the middle school and high school. The major needs were identified during this first phase of the project that included such systems as the heating systems, plumbing systems, roofs, and so forth, all of which would require taking a series of bonds to the community over the next few years for amounts near or exceeding $55 million. Little was included in this first phase of assessment, which addressed educational needs associated with increased enrollment in South Burlington, overcrowding, accessibility, safety, and programming. The board made a decision to engage in a thorough build versus renovate analysis and ultimately decided to bring the build option to the South Burlington community. This option allows the district to continue to provide the quality public education our citizens value, to position our programming for the next 50 to 60 years, all while minimizing any disruption for our students and staff during this transition. We're excited about this project and anxious to continue to share information with the community. And with that, I'll invite our board clerk, Bridget Burkhart, up. Thanks, Bridget.
Good morning, everyone. So, as Elizabeth said, after years of discussion and feedback from the community, faculty, administration, and families, the board voted unanimously in September of 2019 to instruct our architects to move forward with further plans for a new middle and high school with an attached physical education and athletic center, and to then obtain cost estimates for those new buildings. The buildings will be located on the eastern side of the existing property where the current playing fields are. So I'll direct you to this first board here. These white objects are sort of the outlines of the proposed buildings. They're built over the existing varsity baseball field, the existing track, and an existing practice field. The middle and high schools will share infrastructure and a kitchen, but will have separate entrances, educational spaces, and community spaces. There will be a corridor between the buildings that can be used to share spaces, as the two schools already do, but there will be no more middle schoolers crossing a parking lot in their shorts in the middle of winter with their band instruments. The middle school is designed to support our team teaching model with 4 core subjects, plus 1 special like health or world language or family and consumer sciences, plus special education spaces and small breakout spaces organized around what we're calling an extended learning area. So these pods at the top of the design, each of those would be a grade level. They're 2 stories tall, so there would be 2 teams for each grade level. And this is the way we're already teaching. Our building just isn't quite designed to support it yet. The extended learning area in the middle of all those classrooms allows students to work independently with passive supervision from teachers in the surrounding classrooms. The middle school will also have its own gym and its own locker rooms, its own dining commons. And then the high school, which is to the right, or to the right side of this page here. So here's the kitchen that they share all of that to the right is the high school. The high school is designed to encourage collaborative, student-driven learning. Students that work together, or subjects that work together, will be located together. One wing will incorporate STEM disciplines around extended learning areas, and they will also be located close to art and fabrication spaces to support project-based integrated learning. The other wing will focus on humanities and leadership, and another hub will incorporate the school's Big Picture program, which is a school within a school that already exists in the high school, as well as business learning and our career development resources. The high school will also include bigger, better, and more accessible spaces for performing arts, student dining, and media center. The court spaces, health classrooms, movement studio, weight room, trainer's room, et cetera, that would normally be housed in the high school will be housed in the Physical Education and Athletic Center, which is this building here to the furthest right on the plans. And in addition to those spaces that would regularly have to be designed into the high school, the Physical Education and Athletic Center will include a 200-meter competition indoor track. The building will allow our students, both athletes and non-athletes, to get more physical and activity and practice during the long winter and shoulder seasons. And it will support our indoor track team, which is our biggest participation sport in the high school. The high school will be attached to the Physical Education Center, but the Physical Education Center can be closed off for community use when it's not in use by the schools. The new schools will support the way we are educating our kids today better and will provide more flexibility to adapt to the inevitable changes that will come in the future. The buildings are designed to be more engaging for students. They'll have more natural light, more community space with passive supervision to encourage social connections, and provide more spaces for hands-on student-driven learning. They will incorporate special education on team in a more effective way than our current buildings allow us to do. They will be safer, both from a physical safety perspective, the parking lot designs, the traffic flow will be safer for students and parents and buses. They will be safer from a security perspective, both because of the way the entrances are designed as well as the materials that will be used in the building. They will also be safer from a code perspective, so there will be sprinklers throughout them, and the hazardous materials that we have been working to abate in both buildings would obviously be removed when we built the new buildings. Both buildings would be more energy efficient. They'll incorporate PV panels to provide solar energy. They will have tighter envelopes that improve energy efficiency, and they will have all-electric heating and cooling systems. The new buildings will expand opportunities for community use of our school spaces. So the community already uses our school spaces extensively, and we expect that we will be able to provide that level of access in addition to additional access given the new spaces that we're building. And finally, they will address the growing student enrollment at both schools. And we're already seeing pressures at both schools, especially the high school is already overcrowded. We're also seeing at the elementary level a rise in student enrollment based on new housing that's coming online in South Burlington. So we expect that rise in elementary enrollment to continue to drive high school and middle school enrollment. So finally, one question that the community has been asking, and we've been talking about the headline number. We expect the project to cost $209.6 million. This is based on a couple of different rounds of cost estimation. The most recent round was done by two separate cost estimators, and then they got together to reconcile that cost estimate. There will be a lot more information for taxpayer impact posted online. There's a project website that will be put up at the end of the press conference. But just to give two data points, based on a lot of assumptions, because we have to make assumptions at this point, based on a lot of assumptions, the budget assumptions about interest rates and bonding schedules, we expect that a $350,000 home for someone who does not have income sensitivity eligibility, they would see their taxes increase by $1,500 a year for the next 32 years, which is the life cycle of the bonds that we would expect to take out for the project. Approximately 50% of our taxpayers in South Burlington pay based on income rather than on their home value. So anyone with an income of less than $136,500 for their household is eligible for some level of income sensitivity. To pick one data point, and we picked this data point because we know that our median household income in South Burlington is about $66,000. Someone with a 70,000 household income would expect to see their taxes go up by $438 per year for the next 32 years. So for all taxpayers, the impact of the project would increase over the first 3 years as the bonds are taken out to fund it, and then slowly decrease over time. And the last bond would be paid off 32 years from the start of the project. With that, I'll hand it over to Pat Burke, our high school principal.
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Patrick Burke. I'm proud to be principal at South Burlington High School. Thanks for coming today. As much as we've been talking about the facilities, I just would like to offer that this actually isn't about a building. This is about continuing to support the provision of a solid educational foundation for the young citizens of South Burlington. Though our two school buildings were designed to be state-of-the-art when they were built, it wasn't actually the bricks and mortar of Tuttle Middle School and South Burlington High School that made these places what they are, but rather our community's value for education that literally put South Burlington on the map. Public schools in America are the only place in the world where everyone of a certain age in a city or town come together for a common and important purpose. The concept of the comprehensive high school isn't just for movies and TV shows. It is a uniquely American concept and one which is central to the American dream. Yes, our schools serve individual learners, but it's mostly a communal charge. South Burlington Middle and high schools welcome everyone. And this is, let's face it, for our students, the final time that everyone will be together. Our learners are diverse, but in so many ways, they are unified beyond all else. As Bridget said, education today is no longer about filling students' heads with knowledge. Rather, it is about helping students be creative and practical in solving problems through research and collaboration. It's about helping students be able to analyze, apply, integrate, and communicate. Students learn these skills through regular and dynamic interaction with their peers, with adults, and with experts in the community. My students have told me they want their school buildings to be safe. They want their campus to be safe. And yet they also crave an open environment where they will experience trust and autonomy, the trust and autonomy that they need to become self-directed, responsible, and involved citizens. Some things will stay the same. Letter grades, GPAs, high academic expectations all remain. But gone are the days of teachers lecturing basic facts for 40 minutes at a time, 8 times a day. Gone are distinct subjects with no interrelation or integration. Nobody is telling us that the old-fashioned, knowledge-focused education is what our students need to be successful. Not the colleges, not higher ed, not employers, and not the military. At South Burlington and Tuttle, you will see teachers conferring with students in the small entryway foyers of their classrooms, or you'll see students in the hallways working in groups, their teachers with one eye on them and one eye on the classroom. It is common at Tuttle or the high school for a teacher to start their class in one room or at one school, only to move across the school and even across the parking lot to access space and equipment more suitable for learning. And if you're walking the halls of the high school after school, you better watch out, because over 100 indoor track athletes are sprinting, jumping, and hurdling throughout the building. Our schools were not designed for what we endeavor to do, and to be fair, few were in the late 50s and early 60s. In order to continue to deliver on our charge, we need flexible team spaces and natural light at Tuttle. And both schools need research and design labs that bring science, math, technology, and art together in a way that makes integration and collaboration efficient. A middle school designed with multiple pliable learning spaces will help prepare students for the high school, where they will readily move from large group instruction to small group collaboration and/or exhibition. South Burlington students need a middle and high school design where students with a passion for the visual and performing arts have multiple flexible places to learn, to display their work, and to perform. South Burlington and Tuttle, like all school buildings of yesteryear, are marked with long, often dark, narrow hallways and the few renovations in the 70s only exacerbated handicap access issues and fostered detachment. Our middle and high school design is unfortunately conducive to isolation and division. Groups at my school can withdraw to a specific wing or hallway, and it has made it difficult for school officials to monitor all building locations and maintain order in an unobtrusive way. The changes these new buildings will bring to South Burlington middle and high schools will be far more than changes to the bricks and mortar of the buildings. Changes in the educational design will provide our middle and high school students with environments that will assure the proud tradition of high-quality education in South Burlington will continue to be a distinguishing component of our community. Thanks. Dave.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Elizabeth. So this does conclude our update. A couple things as we move on. First is where you can get additional information. Our website is robust with information, www.sbschools.net. There's a myriad of information that you can get there. And then on next steps, to be clear, we have another school board meeting planned for next Wednesday, the 15th of January. The school board will be making decisions both on the budget and finalization of the bond. Again, we thank you for coming. And again, after we conclude, we'll be happy to answer questions. Thank you.
I'm wondering, with athletic fields in front of the school, you have a busy intersection there. Baseball field, I mean, how, could you, I'm sure you've thought it through.
So part of it, and you heard Bridget allude to the design, again, one of the components of having the school tucked back provides additional security for us able to see folks coming and going to the school. And then in addition, there's enough of a barrier between the Dorset Street here and the fields. There's an opportunity, we think a viable opportunity for, number one, people to be able to use the space and also have access to it.
We also, not to interrupt, we also talked to the folks, because you know up at the corner of, up at Dorset Park, there's a ball field there also, and we talked to the baseball folks up there, and they have a backstop that goes over the home plate, and they said it's not common that balls are flying onto Dorset Street up there, and this actually is a little farther
Off of
set
Dorset.
back from Dorset than the one that's up at Dorset Park. So, it's a good question, but we,
I envision balls going.
yeah, I know, yeah. It's, based on the experience of that ball field that's been up there for about, I think, 15 years or so, it apparently
They don't
is.
have cars sitting there, you know.
Up on Dorset? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, true, yeah. It might be something that netting or backstops would have to address.
Questions?
Your comment with regard to the $350,000 home, is that the cost, principal, and interest, or just principal?
That is principal and interest. So that's all debt service related to the project. So that's all repayments of principal and interest over the 32 years.
And you said it was $1,500 a year for 32 years?
Yes.
For house,
Yes.
350,000?
There's a very detailed table. It's not very visually appealing, but it will be on the website. The board was just given this last night. And so it's got a table that has on one side of the page all of the sort of different levels of property value. And I guess it's got $50,000 increments of property value. And on the other side is income sensitivity, starting with an income of $30,000 and going up to the limit, which is $136,500 of household income. So you can kind of look up on there where you would fall and get a sense of what the potential is over the 32 years.
Bond a fixed rate or?
So we're working with a financial advisor. Their best estimate of how we would fund the project would be a bond anticipation note, which is a short-term note for the first year of the project to support all the remaining design work, engineering work to kind of get the project started. That 10 million would be paid off by a $67 million bond in the second year of the project. And then that they're anticipating would be, yeah, all of them would be fixed rate. So there'd be a 67,000 one in that year, then a $90 million one, and then a $52.6 million one in the fourth year of the project. And they basically estimated increasing interest rates on each of those, but fixed for each of those different bonds over time. Yeah, there are a whole lot of assumptions that went into these numbers, and those are outlined when you go to look at the tax impact page. We had to make assumptions not only about interest rates and terms of the bonds and when they would be taken out, but we also obviously had to make assumptions about the school tax factors, the things that factor into how much our budget translates into homestead tax rate. So things like the yield and the common level of appraisal and equalized pupils. We tried where we could to be very conservative. So for example, these numbers don't anticipate any grand list growth, which is probably not a realistic assumption given we know that there are additional properties planned for city center and various other parts of South Burlington, but we tried to base it on what we know today about what our budget factors are for this year's budget, this one that's upcoming.
Thank you, Bridget.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.